Now I mentioned the term connected apps, so let's take a look at some of the considerations associated with these connected apps that allow us to tap into additional sources. Any cloud app with an API can be connected to. However, the connection configuration will depend on the type of app. Some considerations associated with the planning for these app connections include the management account, networking, the types of supported apps, and the types of supported apps that we have are Azure, Office 365, and Dropbox, as a few examples. And we can connect to any of these and more with the appropriate API. Now, after I've established a connection to the app, if I want to remove that connected app, I need to contact support to do so. And I'm telling you this because I want you to be careful when you're testing the connectivity to these apps, because if you're establishing connections as you're testing, in order to get rid of those test connected apps, you're going to have to contact support to do so. Let's go back out to our CAS dashboard and take a look at how we configure these connected apps. And as you can see, this is the same landing page as we've used in the last two demonstrations. I always like to start on the same page, you know how the navigation process works. You'll see in the top right hand side we have Connect Apps, so I'm going to go ahead and click on that. And when we come in here, we're going to see that we have a demo Dropbox connection. And you'll see it provides you information about the app, the status, the connection information, activity information, and associated accounts. These are the filtering options that we have above: app, app category, and connected by. So if we have several apps, we can use this for filtering capabilities. And as you can see, we just have one app here. If I click the ellipsis to the right, kind of a vertical ellipsis, notice I can edit the instance name and I can edit the settings. What are we missing? We're missing a delete option. Remember, I already said we can't delete these apps once we've added them without going through support. So be aware of that. And this is an example of that. Let me go ahead and click Add. And notice we can create a connected app to Amazon Web Services, Box, Dropbox, Azure, Salesforce, as well as Office 365. Now, if there's something you'd like to see here, you can suggest more apps by clicking that plus sign and fill out the form to request an additional app be added to this list. And we'll go to Office 365. So saying you want to connect to Office 365, so click Connect Office 365. Select the Office 365 components. And notice we have a few different ones to choose from here. The Azure AD users and groups, management events, sign-in events, apps, Office 365 activities, and Office 365 files. But Office 365 files is saying you need to enable file monitoring before enabling Office 365 files. So it's kind enough to give you some direction when you're working through this interface. So I'm going to go ahead and click Connect. And it's saying the Office 365 was successfully connected in the green on the bottom. I will close this out. And notice we now have a second connected app. So after we've created a connection, we can edit the instance name. We have Office 365 sales. I'll just call this O365-demo, and I'll save that. We'll go back down to it, edit these settings. And in here, if I decide I want to access some additional Office 365 components, I can do so from in here and then simply click Connect. And this particular app has an option to connect to a Microsoft Azure instance. However, when I go to the Dropbox option, notice I can edit the instance name and edit the settings, but there's not an option to connect to an Azure instance. So depending on the type of connection that you establish will determine what configuration settings you have for that app. Notice we have a second tab here. This is the Conditional Access App Control Apps. Filtering capabilities across the top. This is after we've added our apps, we can add real-time monitoring and control the capabilities of those apps. And these are driven by the type of app and the deployment process used to deploy that app. We have an option for device identification settings in the top right-hand side. I'm going to go ahead and click on that. Previously in this course, I went and showed you how to configure the cloud app security. And we went through the 5 categories on the left-hand side of system, cloud discovery, threat protection, information protection, and conditional access app control. And notice when I clicked on that from within conditional access app control, it's brought me to the configuration setting of device identification. We've already been here and taken a look at default behavior, and we explored some of these previously in this course, but I just wanted to show you that you can quickly access these options throughout the CAS interface. And I'll simply hit the back arrow in the browser to bring me back to my conditional app control apps as well as my app connectors. We've discussed several different components of CAS, but we also have what's called a solution, and I want to talk about some of the planning considerations associated with a CAS solution. First off, what we want to do here is we want to establish the connection. As we just saw, There's the Dropbox connection, and there's an Office 365 connection. And depending on the type of connected app that we establish, we have different configuration settings. And then as we did earlier on, we're going to most likely create an activity policy. You're most likely going to create a file policy so you can keep an eye on the files being used in the cloud. And then most often you're going to want to also create a discovery anomaly detection policy. And lastly, we'll create any additional policies based on the alerts generated. So generally speaking, there's going to be about 4 policies that you're going to want to create for each connected app. And the last thing I want to do is to expand on the CAS solution technologies available to us. We just discussed the use of connected apps. It provides greater visibility and control of CAS. It also increases the ability to manage threats. In addition, we peruse through the conditional access app control. And this will enable policies to restrict and monitor access to your cloud apps based on a specific criteria that we've defined. We also have the Windows Defender ATP, Advanced Threat Protection integration. This enables you to extend the visibility beyond your network and provide machine-based investigation should there be any security issues. And our final one is the Microsoft Power Automate. We saw where that comes into play. We integrate CAS with Microsoft Power Automate, which will allow the administrators to create custom automation and actions based on the alerts generated in CAS. So in this module, we went through the cloud app security prerequisites. We discussed the configuration of CAS policies and saw how to create a CAS policy. We configured a connected app. And we also discussed the CAS solution technologies that are available to provide us an umbrella type scenario when working with cloud app security. And next up, we're going to look at monitoring cloud app security.